Throughout the many stages and sagas of the course of video game history, from the earliest days of Atari to the multi-billion pound multinational conglomerates who control the industry today, for many years the only constant was Japanese developer Konami making one classic game after the next. But in recent years the company's standing with your average gamer has fallen to an all-time low, with many swearing to never purchase a game from them ever again, to internet personality and answer to the question who ate all the pies, Jim Sterling, coining the phrase "fuck Konami," which in turn has taken on a life of its own among many disgruntled and dissatisfied gamers who feel betrayed by a company they once held dear. So the question has to be asked: if Konami was to get their fingers out and act together and started producing the quality software we once used to expect, would gamers forgive, but more importantly, forget? Or has the damage to their reputation been done and they should just quietly close the doors to their Tokyo headquarters and have every member of management to a man be forced to commit suicide in the streets by harakiri? And instead of being finished off with a katana, instead have Jim Sterling there, hitting each of them in turn continuously with one of his 3-foot-long black rubber cocks? But to get to the root of this problem, I think we need to go back in time to see if we can find the moment when the cracks first started to appear. Konami, the company, would come into existence in 1969, and like fellow Japanese developers Sega, would enter the new and exciting world of video games in the early 1980s, having established themselves in the quickly diminishing markets of pinball machines and jukeboxes, and scored some early hits with titles like Frogger, Track and Field, and Yi Are Kung Fu. But it would be on the recently released home systems that the company would really start to build their brand among fans, with games that have rightly gone into legend, such as Castlevania and Contra. Now, although developing games for the leading home console at that time sounds great, Nintendo had very strict policies that developers had to follow, such as no ports to rival systems. But like many other developers, Konami found a loophole in Nintendo's exclusivity contract, as it only applied to consoles, leaving them and others free to release games on home computer systems, such as the Commodore 64, Spectrum, Amiga and Atari ST. But it would be on the Japanese computer scene that a little game called Metal Gear would make its maiden appearance on the MSX2 hardware. A lesser NES port would soon follow, but as the decade that fashion forgot began to close, Konami would shift its priorities from original IP and produce some of the finest examples of licensed software this industry had ever seen. Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Asterix, X-Men, even the short-lived Bucky O'Hare would wind up being developed into arcade masterpieces by the talent on the Konami payroll. This period of the late 1980s to the end of the 90s would be something of a golden age both for the company's fortunes but also for gaming in general. But things weren't all rosy in the Konami gardens. A number of dissatisfied staff members would leave the company in a huff in '93 and set up their own studio, Treasure, and published some of the most important titles for Sega's 16-bit Mega Drive and later the Saturn. But as the arcade business entered terminal decline in the mid-1990s, taking with it once mighty studios like Technos Japan and Data East, Konami would once again shine brightest on the new all-conquering home system of the day, Sony's PlayStation. Suikoden, Vandal Hearts, Symphony of the Night, a new entry in the forgotten Metal Gear franchise in Metal Gear Solid, and a reminder to Capcom what true horror was in Silent Hill. Konami had once again defined a generation, and while the hits would continue into the new millennium, company founder and president Kagemasa Kozuki would look to diversify the company's interests and slowly push video games down the list of priorities. So let's jump forward a decade or so to the present day, where Konami's tattered reputation within gaming, largely down to the treatment meted out to one of its longest serving employees, Hideo Kojima, has, for anyone who grew up in the 80s or 90s, been a source of deep frustration and regret for what might have been. Franchises like Suikoden, Goemon, Zone of Enders, Gradius, Hubba Hubba, Rumble Roses, and even Yu-Gi-Oh! If that's your sort of thing, these and many, many more have all meant something to me. So to see Konami actively looking to exit the video game industry like an escaping James Bond villain has been a sad sight to see. As for a time, Konami instead looked to increase its fitness center portfolio and return to its pachinko roots. But having bought out Hudson Soft in 2012, another company I idolized when younger, may in fact have been Konami the video game developers' saving grace because of one of Hudson's signature series, Bomberman. Bomberman Super R for the Nintendo Switch proved to be both popular and, more importantly for Konami anyway, profitable, leading to many sources within the company to reconsider them seemingly abandoning consoles for the mobile phone market. So we come to today, where I have to repeat the question I asked in the beginning. If Konami were to get their fingers out and act together, would gamers forgive and forget? As for me, well, if any future games are to the same standard as we once used to take for granted with any game with the Konami logo on it, then yes, I will forgive past discretions. But what about you guys? Let me know your thoughts and feelings on one of the most drawn out and tragic tales in video games' recent past. So my name's Gray. This has been my very, very brief look at a fallen giant of this industry who maybe, just maybe, can still recapture its glory days. I, for one, hope so, at least. So thank you very much for watching. This has been Consoletronics. More videos up soon, and I'm out of here. Laters.